بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I'm Brother Ali and welcome to Face to Floor. Inshallah ta'ala, God willing, we are going to do our sixth session reading from the explanation of the Creed of Ibn Asakir, also known as the Guiding Creed. So inshallah today we're going to talk about two topics, focus on two topics. One being that Allah Ta'ala, the Almighty Creator, is omniscient, meaning that God knows everything. And also we're going to talk about the sources of knowledge for us, for human beings, inshallah. But first let us review. In lesson 5, we discussed that Allah is attributed with life and is Qayyum. This is mentioned in the Quran. Allah revealed in Ayatul Kursi, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, which means that Allah, there is no God except Allah, no God except Him, and Allah is Al-Hayy, the alive, and Al-Qayyum, the everlasting. And we talked briefly, in some detail, about the soul, the human soul, and we mentioned that the human beings, we do not know the reality of the soul. The soul is an ethereal body, a subtle body, which is inside of our physical body. But the soul is not God, and it is not part of God. And God is not a soul, because many people, they have the misconception that the soul is part of the Creator, or that the soul unites with the Creator. And the fact of the matter is that there is the Creator and everything else is a creation. And also regarding the soul, we mentioned that there are some people who call themselves Sufis, and they have this belief that the soul allegedly merges with or unites with the Creator. And this is a belief, without a doubt, that is regarded as blasphemy by the Islamic standards. Because the Creator, Allah, is not a material being, and the Creator is not a spiritual being. The spirit, the ruh in Arabic, or we use the word soul also in English, the soul or the spirit, the ruh, is a creation of the Creator, and it is not the Creator, and it is not part of the Creator. So, and we also did discuss that Sufism is one of the branches of Islamic science. And genuine Sufism, it focuses on the purification of the heart and the rectification of the character, while having the proper belief and abiding by the sacred law. So it's not, as some people say, that they try to project Tasawwuf, Sufism, they try to project it as some sort of like New Age hippie ideology. And this is not the case. No, that Sufism is a valid, a genuine Islamic science, and it entails first and foremost having the proper belief in the Creator. It entails abiding by the sacred law, the Sharia, and it focuses on the purification of the heart, making the heart detached from the worldly matters and attached to the remembrance of the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's it. That was some of our review from what we mentioned last week. And then let me clarify something. That among the beliefs of the pseudo-Sufis is the belief that Allah is everything and everything is Allah. And this is not the belief of Muslims. We say everything other than Allah is created by Allah. When we read Al-Fatiha, we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, which means praise and thanks and ultimate gratitude is due to the Creator, who is the Lord, the owner of the universe. So it doesn't mean that Allah is the universe, but Allah Ta'ala is the owner, the Creator and owner of the universe, or universes if you wish. Meaning that there is not only the universe, the world that we are familiar with, but as we'll talk about today, And we did talk about previously, there are the realms of the unseen, what's called in Arabic the ghaib. And Allah Ta'ala is the creator and owner and controller of all that we see, all that we are familiar with in this realm of existence and what is beyond this realm of existence. All of these realms, all of these dimensions, all of them are created by Allah, and Allah Ta'ala controls them and knows everything about them. Also, regarding the belief, some people say Allah is everywhere. And this is not a valid belief. Before there were wares, there was a creator. Imam Ali, who is the fourth of the rightly guided caliphs, the rightly guided leaders, he said, "Kan Allahu wa la makan, wa huwa al-ana ala ma alayhi kan." He said Allah was existing and place was not, and Allah is as He ever was. Meaning that Allah existed before place existed, before light, before darkness, before time, before space, before direction. Allah existed before the creations, before place, and after creating place and the rest of the creations, Allah is as He was. That is, that Allah exists without being in a place. So it's not the case that Allah is everywhere. Some people say this statement, and because they don't know how to express it properly, they have the right belief, but they don't express it properly. Some people, what they mean is that Allah knows about everything everywhere, and that Allah has power over everything everywhere. That's true. But we don't say Allah is everywhere, or we don't say period. We don't say that Allah is everywhere. And if a person were to think, and if he really thought about the implication of that statement, what it means, and a person, again, may have the proper understanding, but they don't express it properly. So in that case, we correct the person, we explain, don't use this statement because it leads to the wrong impression about the Creator. So Allah Ta'ala knows everything everywhere, and Allah has power over everything everywhere. But we don't say Allah is everything, and we don't say Allah is everywhere. So we express it properly. Say Allah exists, the Creator exists without being in a place or in a space or a distance or direction. The Creator was before the creation. And that the Creator knows everything about the creation and has power over every aspect of the creation. But some people, they literally do believe that Allah is everywhere. And this belief is blasphemy also, without a doubt. And in such a belief, it would mean that the person would be saying that, وَيَعْذُ بِاللَّهِ, may Allah protect us, but the meaning of such a statement, the person would be saying that Allah exists in even the filthy places like the sewage. And this is not the belief of the Muslims. This is the belief, as we mentioned in the last session, that this is the belief you find among many of the Hindus. Among the Hindus, many of them will tell you that we worship anything and everything, because they say anything and everything is God. This is very common now because of some of the ideas of Hindu philosophy and religion is spreading in Western society because people are taking up the practice of yoga. Some people, they use the phrase namaste. And what it is meant by this statement is that I greet the divine, and some of them by the divine, they don't mean something special. They mean that I greet the divine, meaning that they're saying that I greet the divine that is in you. And they mean by that statement, I greet the God, that God is inside of you. Sometimes the word divine is used not only to refer to the Creator, but for example, something special or something unique. But no, they mean by this, they mean literally that God is inside of us, and this is blasphemy. We are creations. We have a soul, and the soul is something astounding. It is something astounding, and we do not know the reality of it. But the soul is not the Creator, and the Creator is not the soul. Again, the soul or the spirit, I'm using the word interchangeably here, that the soul is a creation of the Creator, and it is an astounding creation, something that we cannot fathom its reality, but it is not the Creator. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about we're going to read from the text very briefly, very short passage. and then explain insha'Allah. So the author, he said about Allah, Alimul Ghaybi wa Shahada. He said about Allah, Allah is the Alim, the one who knows about the Ghayb and the Shahada. The Ghayb means the unseen and the unforeseen. By the unseen, we mean, for instance, the dimensions that are not beyond our senses. We talked about, for example, the dimension of the jinn. We talked about the dimension of the angels. They are in what can be referred to as the ghaib, meaning they are in the unseen. Also, the ghaib can refer to the unforeseen, meaning the future. That Allah Ta'ala has blinded us, meaning to know the future. We do not know the details of the future. We do not have, as the saying goes, we do not see into the seeds of time. That we cannot see, we do not know the details of the future. Certain events we know will occur in the future because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us that certain events will occur, and we're going to talk about a little bit about this in a few minutes. But certain events will occur in the future, so we know that to be true because it's a message or something being conveyed from a prophet. So the ghaib, the future in this sense, we do not see the unforeseen. It is hidden from us. And what people who call themselves fortune tellers and people who do what they call divination, these people are often under the influence of the demonic jinn. And these demonic jinn, they acquire certain knowledge of certain things, but they do not know the details of the future. And they mix certain things, they mix some truth with lots and lots of lies. So this issue of what they call fortune telling and things of this nature, this is not something that Muslims get involved in. And the fact is that these people do not know, they do not know the future as they claim. So just be aware of that. But Allah is the alim of the ghaib. Allah is the one who knows all of the unseen, all of the details of the unseen dimensions, and also Allah Ta'ala knows all of the future. And Allah's knowledge, as we said, is absolute. That Allah knows what was, everything that has occurred. Allah knows what is, everything that is occurring. And Allah knows everything that will occur. So Allah's knowledge is absolute. And we can add to that Allah knows what won't occur, but if it were to occur, how it would occur. That Allah knows everything, and Allah everything that is, and Allah knows everything that is not. But if that were to happen, that which did not happen, if it had happened, Allah would know about it. I give the example often in the lesson that maybe a student doesn't come to the class. But if that student had come to the class, Allah would know, for example, where that student would sit, what that student would say, what that student would think in the lesson. So Allah Ta'ala's knowledge is absolute. Nothing escapes the knowledge of the Creator. And also Allah Ta'ala knows the shahada here in this sense, meaning what is witnessed by us, what we witness with our senses. So Allah Ta'ala and Allah knows what we witness with our senses. Allah's knowledge is absolute. He knows everything without any exception. Allah knows about the events that last for perpetuity, meaning that they last forever into the future. They are things that have a beginning, because everything other than Allah, everything other than the Creator, has a start. But there are some creations that last for perpetuity, meaning that they last forever without an end. They are events, they are occurrences, meaning something that has a start and then it continues as a succession of events going on and on and on into the future. For example, paradise is everlasting. It has a beginning, it is a creation, it is something that is originated. It has a beginning, but its existence lasts forever into the future. Hellfire, it has a beginning, but it will last forever into the future. So these are two examples of things that last forever into the future. Allah knows all about that. And again, our knowledge is very small. So Allah knows everything without exception. And Allah knows about the rational necessity, the rational impossibility, and the rational possibility. And this, inshallah, we're going to segue to another topic related to this. Regarding these three rational judgments, if you check out the video, inshallah, I will post the link in the box below about the series we did called The Atheist, or the speech we did called The Atheist Delusion. So we go into that lesson, we talk about the rational judgments. Inshallah, if you want to kind of accelerate your learning on this topic, you can go ahead and check that out, because in the next lesson we will also cover that topic here for the Guiding Creed series. But before we go into talking about the rational judgments today, inshallah, I want to talk about the sources of knowledge. How do we know things? And the scholars such as Imam al-Nasafi, one of the famous Maturidi scholars, he mentioned that there are three sources of knowledge. The first we can mention is the sound senses. The second is the reliable report. And the third is what is known by reason. And we're going to go through all of them, inshallah. So we said the first is the sound senses. So we have 5 sound senses: our hearing, our sight, our taste, our touch, our hearing. So these are 5 senses. And by sound here we mean healthy. Like you say, somebody arrived safe and sound. By sound here we mean healthy. That the person who has sound senses, so for example, I have relative sound senses of sight. So I can look here and can see that I'm at this table. I can touch it. So by my sense of touch, I can feel that this table is a solid object. This room is also hot today, mashallah. I can feel the heat. I can hear the sound of my voice. If I'm eating, I can taste the food. If someone offered me some fragrance, I could smell the perfume. So, alhamdulillah, I have these senses and I'm able to perceive by the virtue of these senses. So that's how I become acquainted, for instance, with the world around me through my senses. So the sound senses is one source of knowledge. I want to digress here when we talk about the sources of knowledge. Now in the Western tradition they call this epistemology. That for Muslims we have a different worldview from what is the predominant ideology that we're exposed to if you go to university or even high school, the Western worldview. So a lot of the intellectual heritage of Western civilization is really built off of a reaction to Christianity. So you will find a lot of the intellectuals rejecting many matters that are related to, as we talked earlier about the ghaib, the unseen dimensions. Like for Muslims, we know that there are angels, we know that there are jinn, we know that there are these beings that exist in a dimension that we do not normally perceive. That many of the people in the West, and in general the bulk of your intellectuals of the West, they reject this out of hand. And as we did mention in the atheist delusion, they even reject the existence of the Creator. Not only do they deny the unseen dimensions of being physical, or let's say ethereal entities that exist in an unseen dimension, that they completely even deny the existence of God. Now, it should be, we should mention that it is not a condition for something to exist that we perceive it with our senses. We said that one of the sources of knowledge is through our senses. But even our senses are weak. For instance, that if I have a dog whistle and I blow on the dog whistle, I don't hear anything. The people in general don't hear anything, but the dogs hear it. So our sense of sight or our sense of hearing is limited, and there are things that are beyond our range of auditory perception, beyond our hearing. Also, for example, you take the hawk. The hawk can fly several hundred feet up in the air, can fly over a field of tall grass. And the hawk, by the will of Allah, he may see a small mouse crawling, the mouse itself is camouflage. He sees that mouse, a small mouse crawling through the tall grass, although the hawk is hundreds of feet in the air. Ourselves, we might stand above that mouse. The mouse is right beneath our feet in the tall grass, and we're incapable of seeing it. So our senses, they are a source of knowledge, but they are not the only source of knowledge. And this is where the materialists, we say the Western, what the bulk of your Western, if you wish, intellectuals, that they are coming from a very extremely materialistic paradigm, or materialistic worldview, which is in large, it came out of a reaction to Christianity. And why was this extreme reaction to Christianity? Because these intellectuals, by intellectuals here, I mean people who claim to use their mind, who claim to use reason, that they came to the realization that the Christian doctrine has to be inherently absurd, meaning the belief that the Creator, the eternal Creator, became, or let's say it another way, that an infant was transformed into the creator of the universe. And then that infant had to grow up, and then later had to get murdered so that the creator could gain the power to forgive people for their sins. This was the dominant worldview in Europe, Western society. This was the dominant worldview in Europe for more than 1,000 years. But when some of the Europeans started to wake up, they started to use their intellect, they revolted against this ideology. In addition to the corruption, it was also just the outright corruption, but also that doctrine. So a lot of the intellectuals of the West are reacting to the corruption and the doctrine of Christianity. As for Muslims, alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, because our belief is rationally sound, our belief in the Creator is rationally sound, you don't find this. I'm not talking about more recently where you have some people with identity issues who are just regurgitating Western ideology. But through the Muslim history, you didn't have this type of conflict in general between religion and reason. Because what Muslims believe about the Creator is reasonable. It does not contradict the intellect. And our belief in the ghaib, in the unseen, is not something that contradicts the intellect. And inshallah we will talk a little bit more about that. We'll come back to that inshallah. But back to the sources of knowledge. We said the first one is the sound senses, and the second source of knowledge is the reliable report. And the reliable report is divided into two subcategories. One is the mutawatir report. The mutawatir report means it is an event that was witnessed, meaning witnessed from the beginning. It was witnessed by a large number of people, and then transmitted to a large number of people, and then continuously transmitted from one large number to another large number to another large number in such a manner that is inconceivable that all of these people would agree that they would conspire to lie. And inshallah we'll talk about this in a minute, inshallah. I'll come back to this in a little bit more detail. But this concept of what's called the tawatur report or mutawatir, that this is very important to understand. Because this is how we know, for example, how do we know that there was an American Civil War? Okay, person may say it's in my history book. Well, it's conceivable that there are things in the history books that if they're not outright lies, they are distortions. But in the case, for instance, with the American Civil War, that there were hundreds of thousands of millions of people that were involved directly or indirectly in the war. Hundreds of thousands were killed in the war. That these people that were involved in the war, one way or another, that they reported this to a large number, to a large number, to a large number. And of course it was recorded in books, etc., etc., etc. So no reasonable person says, well, I think that all of these people, they have lied about the event of the Civil War. I'm not talking about the causes of the Civil War, because you will find academics, they will argue over the detailed causes of the Civil War. This is not talking about that. We're talking about the event itself. So it is an event that has reached us, has been transmitted by tawatur. It is a mutawatir report. Also, for example, again, a lot of this is a little bit more ambiguous, or not ambiguous, but now because of technology, we don't have to go through all of these chains, but this is another issue we'll get back to, inshallah. That, for example, the distant lands. It may be the case that I have not been, and maybe no one watching this video has ever been to the country of Mongolia. But we know that multiple people have been there, and they have reported the existence of this country. And they have transmitted it through so many different routes that no reasonable person says, well, I think all of these people, through all of these decades and all of these centuries, they've all agreed to lie that there's this place called Mongolia. So this is how this is how we know about events. One way is through mutawatir. Now let me mention something here about the mutawatir report. One of the conditions is it has to be eyewitnessed from the beginning by a large number of people and transmitted to a large number of people and continuously or continually, so that it is inconceivable that all those people would agree to lie. Let's mention a case about this, related to this, and there's a distinction. We have the case of 9/11, meaning the attack on the World Trade Center. Okay, the collapse of the buildings is mutawatir, meaning you had hundreds of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who were there or in the vicinity of those buildings, and they witnessed by their own eyes, they saw these buildings collapse. This is something that is by mutawatir. If you go to New York City, you can ask the New Yorkers and you ask them, what were you doing on that day? They will say, I was, or where were you on that day? They will tell you where. So no one says, well, I asked that person, this person, all of them, they all say the same things. And I don't think that all of these people agree to lie. That's one thing. This is different than just the fact that someone sees something on TV. Because something may be seen on TV, but people can use different manipulation, Photoshop, or certainly things more advanced than that, that they can manipulate images or fabricate images on television in the media. So this is different. We're talking about the actual eyewitnesses. Now another part about mutawatir. Many people say that Osama bin Laden was involved in the bombing. Okay. This is not mutawatir that he was. It is a report coming from a few people who have motive to lie. I'm not saying that Osama bin Laden didn't do it, but we're saying it cannot be confirmed by the general public, because it's only a few people in reality who are saying that he did it. And if they say, well, Osama himself confessed to it, how do we know that? We know that through the media. And people do lie and they do manipulate. So be careful of this. Just because a large number of people report something, when you trace it to its origin, it may not be mutawatir. Okay? Another example is the Bible. Often in dealing with Christians, they may say the Bible is the most widely published, or they may say the most widely read book in the world. Okay, if that is so, certainly it is one of the most widely read books in the world, certainly. But when we trace it back to its origin, we can't get to the origin actually. So when we go back, it's not from a large number of people who actually witnessed the teachings of Jesus, and then they spread them, and they are consistent reports from Jesus alayhi salam. What you have, when you trace it actually going back to the earliest couple of centuries, the authorship of the books that are called the Gospels, John, Mark, Luke, and Matthew. Those 4 books, when you go back, you will find that the Catholic Church assigned those names to those books, and the actual authors of those books are unknown. So this is not mutawatir. What you have today, a large number of people with the Bible, and of course there are multiple versions of the Bible. But today you have a large number of people with the Bible, but when you start to trace it back, you start seeing that the source comes from only a few people, but even those people, or let's say 4 alleged authors, but even those authors, their identity is in doubt. So this does not qualify as a mutawatir report. So we want to clarify. The mutawatir, something witnessed by a large number of people, and conveyed to a large number of people, and that has been successively transmitted in that manner in such a way that it's inconceivable that all of these people have lied. So one source of knowledge, one source of the reliable report is the mutawatir report. Also, another source of knowledge, which is not recognized in the Western tradition, is the prophetic report. Meaning that a prophet says that such and such will happen, or that this is an obligation or this is a prohibition. That we, even though this is coming from one person, we as Muslims accept it. So for instance, or let's go back a step. Why do we believe this person? Because this is one person telling us, for example, that there is a day of judgment. The day of judgment is part of the ghaib. It is something of the unforeseen. It is not something that is perceived by our senses. It is not something that contradicts reason. It does not contradict reason. It is just beyond our senses. It does not contradict, and this is very important because the materialists, when you mention these supernatural events, meaning things beyond the normal order of things, often the materialists, they will deny it. They will laugh at it.